And this is why I always, again, always advise people, especially for the queer community out there at this point, because intestacy laws, which is laws in each province that govern what happens to who gets your stuff if you die without a will. It typically favors family members, and if you're not on good terms with your family, and this applies to everyone as well too. There, if you're not on good terms with your extended like with your blood family, get a will. That's probably the important thing. Is because here's the thing: if you don't have a will, the government decides by legislation who gets your stuff, and the government's priorities are making sure that any spouses that your spouse has their property rights interests and their monetary interests are protected. Okay. Basically, each province has their own law that basically says if you die without a will, here is the order in which who gets your stuff. They're not just physical stuff, digital assets are increasingly important stuff. So who gets access to all that? So I always advise people get a will, because at least something happens, you've got a document that basically says here's who I want to get my stuff. Who name in case one decides I don't want to touch this, because being an executor is not an honor; it's a burden. And oftentimes when estate planning happens, the biggest question I'm asked is, how do I avoid probate? And I'm like, why do you want to avoid probate? People get into more problems trying to avoid probate. Basically, for everyone listening, all probate basically is your provincial, or in this case, if you're in the United States, the state government basically putting their stamp on your will saying, this is your will. This is what's going to happen. And you're paying the fee for the privilege. So a lot of the reason why people ask me for for probate, how to avoid it, is because in provinces like, for example, Ontario, Nova Scotia, and BC, they don't charge a flat fee. They charge a percentage of the value of the estate. I don't want to pay that. And if you own real estate, you need probate, because the land titles office will not transfer out the title without probate. You're going to cause more problems than not, because again, challenges is that if you avoid probate, I'll just add my adult child on title with me at this point here. And I'm like, you've just opened up a huge can of worms. But in reality, what you've just done is you've just done a deemed disposition of your house at that point at fair market value. Unless your adult child is living with you as their principal residence in that house, their half of that one is now subject to capital gains. Yeah. Your adult child now has a $100,000 capital gain.
That they have to pay taxes on, that they no longer.
If they're married, and if they're married, and if they go through a divorce.
Right.